afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the public debriefing on the outcomes of the BEREC's 62nd ordinary plenary meeting. It took place Thursday last week on the 13th of March. This was the first of 4 plenary meetings that we have scheduled for 2025, and it was the only virtual plenary meeting. The following 3 plenaries will all be in person, and they will take place in June, October, and the last one in December, all as per normal in the BEREC schedule. We will have similar debriefing sessions after each of these plenaries, but the public debrief in October will be in person in the IRG offices in Brussels. Details for all of these sessions will be made available on the BEREC website with plenty of prior notice. So, on this slide, you can see the running order for today's session. In total, we have 6 key points that we would like to inform you about, and we have broken it up into 2 separate sessions, 2 separate parts, which will allow for questions and answers to be taken after the first 2 items and then at the very end. For anyone who wants to ask a question, please do so via the live chat box next to the live streaming window, and we will answer any questions during the Q&A sessions. Today, my successor, the BEREC Chair for 2026, Mr. Marko Mismas from the Slovenian NRA ACOS, will tell you about the call for inputs to next year's work program. After Marko, I will hand over to co-chairs of BEREC's Fixed Network Evolution Working Group, Mr. Alexander Thelen from BNetze and François Weber from ARCEP in France, to present the draft updated guidelines for very high capacity networks, which is published for public consultation. After Alex and François have finished, we will take that first Q&A break, where we will try to answer any questions we have received on the first 2 topics. And then after that session, we will hand over to the co-chairs of the Digital Markets Working Group, Chiara Caccinelli from ARCEP and Margarida Santos from ANACOM in Portugal. They will present the updated BEREC opinion on Meta's reference offer to facilitate Messenger and WhatsApp interoperability under the DMA. After Chiara and Margarida, we will have the co-chairs of the Wireless Network Evolution Working Group, Mr. Joe Lynch from ComReg and Sietse van der Gaast from ACM in the Netherlands, to present the final version of the BEREC report on the evolution of private 5G networks and interrelation with public networks in Europe. Followed by a public consultation on that initial draft. After Joe and Sietse, we will have the co-chairs of the cybersecurity and resilience working group, Katja Kmet-Vrečko from ACOS in Slovenia and Zdravko Jukic from HACOM, who will present the key points from their summary report of the BEREC Stakeholder Workshop on Network Resilience, which was held on the 19th of November last year. Finally, I will give you a short update on some general activities and upcoming events before we have the second Q&A session to wrap matters up. So with that, I am happy to hand over to Marko to tell you about the process to develop BEREC's work program for 2026. Please, Marko, go ahead.
Thank you for the floor, Robert. In the next few minutes, I will present the status of the BEREC work program for the year 2026. Next slide. The 4 objectives of the EECC, which are defined in Article 3, remain the foundation and continue to be the guiding force for the BEREC's annual work program. Considering recent and expected sectoral developments, strategic priorities might need to adopt to the new midterm strategy, focusing on promoting full connectivity, supporting competitive and open digital markets, empowering end users, and contributing to sustainable, secure, and resilient networks and services. We will strive for a lighter workload of optional items due to ad hoc activities envisaged for 2026. Next slide. BEREC's aim always is to prepare a feasible, realistic, and insightful work program, where many mandatory tasks derive from EU legislation. Next slide, please. Carryovers. Carryovers have already been identified. These projects started or will start this next year and will be finalized in 2026. Next slide, please. Recurring items. On this slide, you can see the list of the recurring items. 15 recurring items are spread among different working groups. Next slide, please. Optional items. Some optional items on emerging challenges have been listed and will be subject to further consideration as we strive for a lighter workload of optional items due to expected activities of the Commission, which might, or I would say better, will commence new projects. Next slide, please. The sources of the potential projects, as we all know, we are expecting by Q4 a new policy proposal. And the review of the EECC by the Commission, as well as the third source, BEREC office evaluation, which are all activities that might commence potential project in 2026. Next slide, please. So where we are now, currently we are in the phase of collecting the inputs. On the March 3rd, we published external call for inputs. We kindly invite you to provide your inputs by the April 10th. Next slide, please. The next steps. Following today's public debriefing, we will present the work program at the BEREC Stakeholders Forum in Brussels on April 1st. In July, August, so during the summertime, we have the time frame to align the work program with the draft BEREC strategy. Next slide. We list here the expected activities until the adoption in December, bearing in mind that the BEREC strategy is drafted simultaneously. Preparation will be done in close collaboration with the Planning Future Trend Working Group. At the end, I will repeat again, we will present the preparation of the work program on the Stakeholders Forum, where I would like to kindly invite you to physically attend the meeting in Brussels on April 1st. Thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Marko. We now go to Alexander and Francois for their presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we're going to present you the guidelines we're working on for about very high capacity network definition. especially on the fixed network part, which we plan to submit to public consultation in the next days. Next slide, please. And next slide again. So just a reminder of the context. VHCN is defined in the EECC. There are 4 criteria, but 2 of them rely on thresholds, and these thresholds had to be determined by BEREC in close cooperation with the Commission. These thresholds were determined in 2020, but they had to be updated by the 31st of December this year, and that's why we are talking about it today. Next slide, please. So there are 4 criteria in the code which enable you to be considered as a VHCN. Which is a core concept in all digital decade policies. So that's why it's really important to have a precise definition of this concept. You have to meet one of the 4 criteria if you to be qualified as a VHCN. The first 2 ones are not relying on thresholds. So criteria 1 is for fixed line network, and the criterion is to have a fixed line connection with a fiber up at least to the multi-dwelling building. And for the mobile equivalent is criterion 2, any network providing a wireless connection with a fiber rollout up to the base station at least. And the 2 criteria which had to be defined with thresholds on BEREC issued guidelines on in 2020 are criteria 3 for fixed parameters and criteria 4 for mobile parameters. Mobile parameters, you have them on the right side of the slide. They are already updated. It was done in 2023. To take into account progresses in 5G deployments. So today we are going to talk about criterion 3, which is a series of parameters on fixed networks. And the 2 main ones you should remember are the data rates. So the downlink data rate is 1 gigabit per second, and the uplink data rate is 200 megabytes per second. And that's the parameters we had to challenge with the new technologies in this review. And I leave the floor to Alexander to explain to you how we did that.
Thank you very much, Francois. Next slide. So what you just saw on the last slide was the starting point where BEREC started off its review of the guidelines. And according to the PRD, the reason for the update of criterion 3 was to take into account more advanced access technologies compared to 2020. And we were really aiming at, in particular, MG-Fast and DOCSIS 4.0. And to achieve that, we have undertaken an extensive call for stakeholder input in the last year, based on separate questionnaires for FTTB and 1 in-building copper and 2 FTTB and in-building cable. But no new technology is used. So MG-Fast and DOCSIS 4.0 were really not mentioned in any reply to this BEREC call for stakeholder input. Most values are comparable to what was observed in 2020 and really can best be understood as a confirmation of those 2020 values. Next slide. And therefore, in the new version of the guidelines, the performance values that we propose remain unchanged. What you will see is that there are minimal changes to the main body of the BEREC guidelines. Then in Annex 3 of the document, this annex includes the determination of the performance threshold 1 of these fixed network parameters based on the 2019 data. And this annex was maintained and slightly updated, but it remains the basis for the calculation of the values that will remain in place. Then there is a new Annex 4, which describes the methodology and results of last year's data gathering exercise and how the fixed performance thresholds determined in Annex 3 and currently in use are indeed validated and confirmed by these new data points. The determination of performance values for mobile networks has been moved to Annex 5. So this is renumbered, but there are no changes. Next slide. Yes, and so this is what's new. As was already mentioned, I think the consultation has already started. The consultation runs until 30th of April, and we invite all of you to provide us your valuable input. And the final BEREC guidelines are expected to be adopted after plenary 4 in December of this year. Thank you very much. Back to you, Chair.
Alexander and Francois, thank you very much. In case some of you wondered what the acronym BRD stands for, it is the Project Requirements Document. That is a document that we use internally in BEREC to define at the start of a project what the project should do. Are there any questions from the floor? Are there any issues that you would like to put either towards to Marko or towards Francois and Alexander? I'll just give you a short moment to type the question. We haven't received anything yet. No. Okay, then I think that everyone has been very clear. You get, of course, another chance to ask questions at the Stakeholder Forum early next month. So we will now move to the next agenda item, and we go to the co-chairs of the Digital Markets Working Group, Chiara Caccinelli and Margarita Santos, and they will present the updated BEREC opinion on Meta's reference offer to facilitate Messenger and WhatsApp interoperability, which is under Article 7 of the DMA. Please, Chiara and Margarita, go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon. So just to set the scene of this BEREC opinion on Meta's reference offer to facilitate Messenger and WhatsApp interoperability, it's important to refer that following the entry into application of the Digital Markets Act on the 5th of September 2023, the Commission has designated 6 undertakings as gatekeepers under the DMA for a number of core platform services. On that same date, Meta has been designated in relation to, in particular, independent interpersonal communication services, WhatsApp and Messenger. Meta was therefore required to provide interoperability with these services pursuant to Article 7 of the DMA by March 2024 in the case of WhatsApp and September 2024 for Messenger. In addition, according to Recital 64 of the DMA, the designated gatekeeper should publish a reference offer laying down the technical details and general terms and conditions of interoperability with its number independent interpersonal communication services. And of course, the European Commission can consult BEREC in order to determine whether that technical details and general terms and conditions published in the reference offer that the gatekeeper intends to implement or has implemented ensures compliance with this obligation. Next slide, please. So this BEREC opinion builds on the BEREC report on interoperability of number-independent interpersonal communication services, published in June 2023, and follows the list of minimum criteria for the reference offer presented in the report. It also builds on the two previous opinions that BEREC delivered on the proposed solutions for WhatsApp interoperability. The first one was submitted to the European Commission in February 2024 and published in March 2024, after the Commission formally requested BEREC to produce an opinion on Meta's draft reference offer for WhatsApp interoperability. And the second BEREC opinion, published in June 2024, already on the final version of the reference offer for interoperability with WhatsApp, published by Meta in March 2024. Finally, in September 2024, Meta published the reference offer for interoperability with Messenger, which is the object of this BEREC opinion, also in comparison with WhatsApp reference offer. Now I'll give the floor to Chiara, that will present the key points of our analysis in this BEREC opinion.
Thanks a lot, Margarita. So on the next slide, we see the key points and main takeaways. So first of all, BEREC welcomes the improvements made by Meta following also our previous opinion. For instance, there were some messaging features which were added, and also there were different options for free of charge encryption protocols that we, of course, also welcome. There were some proposals for user discoverability and reachability, and afterwards we will see that we also have some comments on this point. However, BEREC does not see any technical justification for some points. For instance, some restrictions which are imposed on Messenger. There is an age floor which is imposed by Meta to enjoy the interoperable service on Messenger, for which we do not see the technical justification, and then we explain in the opinion. And then the fact that the interoperable service is only available on the application and not on the chat functionality of Facebook. Other restrictions are also imposed on other messaging functionalities, for instance, deleting messages, which are considered now as something which is basic functionalities of messaging services. Also, we support again the possibility to have multi-device interoperability services, and they should be proposed if third parties, they confirm that there is an interest for it. On the next slide, please. I mentioned that there are some options which are proposed by Meta on discoverability and reachability of users. Still, we have not a definitive opinion on this, because there are some further elements which would be needed in order for BEREC to define a specific opinion on this, because the available documents do not allow us to have a final thought on this. But still, we have some first opinion, some first thought that we shared in our opinion. On user location, we insist on the fact that it has to be clarified the availability of the service in case EEA users, they leave for a short period of time, for instance, or a longer period of time, the EEA. So what it happens in these cases, and we also use some well-known regulations like the roaming regulations as a basis to see what kind of conditions and criteria could be set. We also insist on the fact that SLAs, so service level agreements, and KPIs should be included in the reference offer. Of course, it is the first time that we have such a reference offer, so this kind of SLAs and KPIs, they can be defined together with the different stakeholders, for instance, also competitors, the gatekeepers, and of course the European Commission in a more multi-stakeholders discussion as well. Also for third parties, it will be key to be informed with due notice about any adjustments or changes to the interoperability conditions. So they have to be made aware with due notice. And we are aware that there is no dispute resolution mechanisms in the DMA, not such a mechanism as we know it in the telco sector. Still, we insist on the fact that any disputes should be solved, all the efforts should be made before they reach national courts, because of course there the process would be more lengthy and more burdensome for all parties. This is all from our side, so I will give the floor to Joe.
Okay, thank you, Chiara and Margarita and Robert. And good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm joined online today by Sitia van de Gasse at the ACM, who will assist if needed. And there are 2 documents associated with this project. I will give a high-level overview about the final report. Next slide, please. And first click, please. Excellent. Well, my introduction is actually neatly set out at the public debrief on the 22nd of October, so I won't cover that again here, but it is available online. So essentially, we went to consultation to give you, the stakeholders, the opportunity to augment the report and tell us your views on issues that we had written in the report from the NRA perspective, because it was driven by an NRA consultation survey. First click, please. So, stakeholders answered questions on numbering identifiers and drivers for private networks. For example, how to accommodate many private networks in localized areas efficiently so that they do not cause network collisions, which would be bad because a device might be rejected off a private network and then remain blocked from attaching to the correct network. We also sought views and received views and information on operating systems and the combinations of network identifiers, mobile country codes, mobile network codes, etc., in private network deployments. And in terms of drivers, many of the stakeholders increased our understanding of the drivers, be it wanting to have more control over a network or having more security if it's needed. Okay, next click, please. So in the consultation, what are the insights on the trends and regulatory matters? In terms of insights on trends, private 5G networks are still not yet widespread, but interest is growing because for some use cases, there exists no alternative. There's no alternative Wi-Fi solution or no alternative MNO solution, including slices, available or being offered by an MNO. MNOs do not want or cannot provide the requested quality of service. It is not economically feasible for the MNO to offer a solution catered to a particular business segment because, for instance, the penalties for not reaching quality of service are too high. Or the use of the network is closed simply for security reasons. In terms of insights on the regulatory matters, most European countries have or are developing frameworks for private mobile networks. Importantly, the frequency range 3800 to 4200 megahertz is under technical harmonization consideration by the CPT from a mandate by the EC. And our intuition is, if you make bands available when there is demand, you can support new spectrum uses and possibly new spectrum users, which is positive. Next click, please. Okay, in general, there were few updates to the report, so few changes to the report, but a project and a report like this is really important in terms of harmonization because it's through the experience sharing and expert dialogue that we're getting harmonization. We have shared information on private network deployments across the region. So from Spain, we had ports and seaports. In Sweden, we exchanged information on private networks in the forestry industry. In Norway, it was mining. In Greece, it was transport. In Germany, there are over 400 private network deployment licenses in play. And there is a flourishing network of small and medium enterprises in private networks. There is much reference material and publications about private network deployments available in the 5G Observatory or the iDate consultancy, etc. But this publication is unique in that it started from the NRA perspective, and now we've augmented it with your inputs. Okay, next click, please. Okay, so this consultation was actually extremely valuable for us, Robert and colleagues. We received a vast amount of rich information from the consultation and from some organizations who might not ordinarily interact with BEREC, as well as the ones who traditionally respond to consultations. I'm just going to call them out to give you a flavor of the types of organizations who responded. Connect Europe, the DECT Forum, EBU, ENA, GSMA, Hewlett-Packard Enterprises, Liberty Global, MVNO Europe, Nokia, Obvios, Radtronics, Satel IoT, Siemens, Transitel, University of Oulu, Västra Götaland region in Sweden, Volvo Autonomous Solutions, the 4IG Group. So it was a really rich amount of information for us, and this enabled us to develop a new chapter in the final report, Chapter 5. The new chapter lists the identified challenges to private 5G networks from you, the stakeholders' perspectives, and some of our observations on them. For example, things like the need and necessity of a 5G device ecosystem, because in some cases, devices are just not plug and play on private mobile networks. So time is needed to test them. That's a new thing that we learned. In terms of the network collision avoidance, which I mentioned earlier, it is a technical matter, but there are solutions, whether it's transmit power considerations, enhanced coordination between the different private network providers, better use of those numbering identifiers I mentioned earlier. But there is no competent authority who may be coordinating the NIDs, the network identifier numbers. Some stakeholders favor gradual harmonization. Other stakeholders want immediate assignment of spectrum, harmonized spectrum now. There's also a contradiction between the need for temporary licenses and location nomadic licenses for special events and fixed licenses in the likes of ports and airports, etc. In terms of cloudification and Open RAN, we've said that this may propel private network deployments, but what you have told us stakeholders is that it depends, the benefits and drawbacks will depend on the unique perspectives to the particular user. So next and final click, please. Okay, so in summary, there are no regulatory barriers to private 5G networks at the moment, but the interest is growing and the uptake is growing. But the technical harmonization of that frequency range I mentioned earlier will help develop a common ground, which is important. Although we have no plans for a work item on this next year for these reasons, we are, Tsitsi and I, the co-chairs, would be happy to keep in contact with you to hear about developments in private 5G network deployments, particularly as this technical harmonization advances. So with that, it's my job to pass to Kacho and Zerdavko if you are available online, and Tsitsi is here if we need to take any further comments. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Joe. Good afternoon, everybody from Amsterdam. when we attend the NISA Telecom Security Forum, which was organized this year with the help from BEREC. If we go to the next slide, please. So last year we surveyed the marketplace about the main challenges in security area they faced. Based on the colorful results, we sorted them into the two main topics. Resilience as first we addressed in this workshop that took place last year, and the second one, cybersecurity, we are working on since the beginning of this year. We will briefly present today the main outcomes of the workshop. However, we invite you kindly to read this insightful BEREC report that was adopted just last week to get more detailed overview. The main aim of the workshop was to address network resilience, as mentioned, from different perspectives. Mainly to raise awareness and to foster good practice sharing among all our stakeholders. More than 160 participants joined us in this virtual event. Next slide, please. The workshop consisted of two panels. The first one showed 3 country perspectives and approaches towards enhancing national networks resilience. The second showed some examples of the industry approaches and concrete technical solutions for providing resilience, especially in more challenging circumstances. Here I give the floor to my co-chairs, Zdravko.
Thank you, Tatjana. Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon to all. On the slide, you see the main messages from each of the presentations in the panel 1. And looking at all of them together, we have identified 4 main points. Could you please switch to the next slide? Yes, thank you. So this is the slide I was just mentioning. So you see all the messages for each of the presentations, but when we look at all of them together, we have identified 4 main points. Number 1, enhancing reliability and resilience can be done by reducing the number of single points of failure. Number 2, physical separation of fiber connections makes networks more robust. 3, more focus must be put on security of submarine cables. And number 4, networks power dependency must be addressed to provide services in extreme weather conditions and disasters. Can we go to next slide, please? Okay, so like in the first panel, in the second panel, we have identified 4 takeaways, and they are: number 1, good communication plan and crisis management team are a must in emergency situations. Number 2, constant risk assessment, resilience and recovery plans, testing are crucial. Number 3, robust network design and regular component testing increases resilience needed for the emergency communications. And the last one, network evolution with the new 5G capabilities will improve mission critical data and voice capabilities. And if you switch to the next one, please. So next one says, thank you all for your attention. And we invite you all to read our report. And also we hope to see many of you in the Stakeholders Forum in Brussels. Thanks again.
Thanks very much, everyone, for your presentations. We can go to the next slide. And here you can see something relatively special on the margins of the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. Myself and Verena Weber, the director of BEREC office, we were delighted to sign the formal working arrangements with the Moldovan regulator, UNRSETI, here represented by its director, Mr. Gergiu Gaibu. And that means that BEREC has a new member without voting rights, and they participated already last week in the first plenary of 2025. Next slide, please. I wanted to fill you in on some of the coming events. On Tuesday, the 1st of April, there will be the annual BEREC Stakeholder Forum in Brussels. I would like to highlight that we have moved venue. In the past, we did this in a hotel close to Place Auger, but we're going to move this year to a conference center called BEREC, which is closer to the railway station Bruxelles Midi. So just make sure that you go to the right place. I will say a few more words about the Stakeholder Forum in a moment. Then on the 30th of April, BEREC Sustainability Working Group will hold a workshop on digital services eco-design for greener networks and ICT. This workshop will be held in person in Brussels, and registration details will be published on the BEREC office website shortly. Then on the 21st of May, BEREC's end-user working group will hold a workshop on practical issues preventing number misuse and possible fraudulent activities as a result of impact of new technologies. Again, details for registering for this workshop will be published on the BEREC website closer to the date itself. And then finally, as you can see here, on the 11th of June, we will have the second BEREC public debriefing in a similar manner as what we're doing right now to this, and it will also be online. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the agenda for the Stakeholder Forum on the 1st of April. The morning session is the usual meet and greet, which provides stakeholders with the opportunity to interact directly with all the co-chairs of BEREC's 12 work groups. This is an exercise that I think we in BEREC value greatly because it helps us to shape the work program for the following year, and Marko has already talked about that. The afternoon will also follow the normal format, with some exchanges with stakeholders to open before a keynote address from a representative from the Commission, and then 2 panel discussions. The first one on end-users' role in fast developing digital markets, and then followed by the future of market power regulation. After all the formal exchanges, we will be delighted to mingle with all of you at a network reception. Good. Next slide, please. Before I wrap up, I would just like to draw your attention to some upcoming public consultations that are related to today's session. Firstly, we have to call for inputs to next year's work program. The deadline for submissions, as already mentioned by Marko, is the 10th of April 2025. So make sure that if you have any comments or suggestions or ideas, to send that in before that date. Secondly, we have the public consultation on the report on the update of criterion 3 of the BEREC guidelines on VHCN. Alexander and Francois talked about that earlier, for which the deadline for submission is the 30th of April of 2025. Again, if you have anything to contribute, do let us know. Good. Next slide, please. And with that, I would like to thank all my colleagues for their input today, and we will start that second Q&A session. So If you have any questions, let us know. We received one question via earlier today from Lanfranco Maini from Win 3 in Italy. Lanfranco asked about the state of play of the Commission's proposal related to roaming regulation update and if there is any public document available. So the answer to that, I'll try to give that because the co-chairs are not on this call. But I can confirm that the review of the roaming regulation is due by the end of June 2025 for the European Commission. And BEREC's input to that review process is due by the end of March. It covers all transparency provisions with a focus on the newly introduced ones, so quality of service, non-terrestrial, value-added services, emergency service, etc. There is a special focus on the wholesale market and the impact of new technology developments is especially called out, including M2M and IoT. And the cost model development by Axon is also analyzed. Lanfranco also asked about the fair use policy for intra-EEA calls, which is due for the end of 2024. In this regard, I can confirm that the GIA includes provisions on voluntary offers for intra-EU communication services at domestic prices with a fair usage policy. And the European Commission shall adopt an IA by the 31st of December, or they have to, I presume, they have adopted one by the 31st of December last year that defines the fair usage policy and anti-fraud measures. The European Commission shared the draft opinion with BEREC last February, and the deadline for adoption and submission of BEREC opinion and the European Commission will be by the end of April. I hope, and I did my best, I'm not a specialist in this area, but I hope that that answers Lanfranco's questions. Then we have a question from Martin Schra from Cullen International. When do you foresee the adoption of the BEREC opinion about the functioning of the EU roaming regulation and the publication of the update of the guidelines of intra-EU communication consultation? I just hopefully answered that question for you, Martin. If you have any further questions, drop us a line and we'll put you in touch with our co-chairs. Any other questions? If not, then I'd like to finish this session. I would like to thank, first of all the contributors from BEREC, of course, and I would like to thank all those who are in the invisible background because I can't see you. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for your questions, and I hope to see you at the Stakeholder Forum at the beginning of next month. Thank you very much.